Today to brew, baby. What is up, here before Millsy? Back with the hometown commander. Back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the Magic world. And as always, the deck list is going to be down in the description below. Today we are rocking on through, and we're going to talk about a fun mono red commander. This one was intriguing to me for a couple of reasons, and one because I got to kind of relive a deck I had built in the past, and two, because I think it just does a lot of really good things, and that's Magda, the Hoardmaster, a 2-mana 2/2 dwarf berserker that says whenever you commit a crime, create a tapped treasure. This ability triggers only once per turn, and you can sack 3 treasures to make a 4/4 red scorpion dragon creature token with flying and haste, activate only as a sorcery. Magda has 2 lines of text, right? And I think both of them are important. First, we're going to talk about how we're going to commit crimes and try to do them as much as possible to make as many treasures as we can. And then the second, we're going to talk about the fact that she makes dragons and how we're going to try to take advantage of some dragons. As far as the treasures go, we'll talk about how to make treasures, whether we want to use them for Magda's ability or just use them for treasure things in general. But again, this deck has a lot of punch to it. As far as crimes go, I mean, my one of the first red cards I thought about in committing crimes was Koth. I'm not entirely sure why. It's just a card that can ramp you a little bit and then deal damage to a creature equal to the number of mountains you control. Can kind of get some things out of the way. And then you have a pretty cool ultimate for an emblem. Chandra makes a ton of sense. You can get the double red, or you can deal damage to a creature, so it can make crimes that way. The +1 won't crime, but that's okay. I still think it could be worth it depending on how you approach it, whether you approach it as a mana rock or whether you approach it as a crime when you need it. Glowing seems really interesting, so when you cast an historic spell, you create a treasure, which is great because we're going to be playing a lot of them. And then we do have a decent amount of legendary things in the deck. And then sack a treasure to go to target creature is a crime that's going to be repeatable, of course, once per turn cycle. And I think the goal really here is finding crimes that we can commit once per turn cycle to make sure we're always getting a treasure from Magda's ability. I know that Magda, the original one, doesn't necessarily commit a crime, but it's still worth talking about here because it's going to be just as great in this deck as this new Magda is. Remember, 5 treasures to get an artifact or a dragon is important. Hell to Pay gets to not only do a crime, but get us the excess damage dealt to that creature back in treasures, which is great. That means more activations for Magda. Vandal Blast can either get rid of 1 artifact we don't control or get rid of everything if we're worried about an entire board of artifacts. Chaos Warp for a little bit of removal at targets. Return the Favor can copy a spell, or can change the target spell, which will be a crime. And then Codex Shredders, where we're going to start talking about cards that can commit 1 crime per turn cycle. Target player mills a card. Of course, we can only do that once before we untap it. Glasses of Urza to look at somebody's hand. Liquid Metal Torque and Coating to make something into an artifact. Again, will then commit a crime. Relic of Progenitus to have an opponent exile a card from their graveyard. Scrabbling Claws, same thing. A License Hearse, taking cards out of people's graveyards. Target cards out of a graveyard. Again, these are all things that can commit a crime once per turn cycle, right? Once until they untap. That if we can pair a couple of these together, we'll make sure that we're getting as many treasures as possible over the course of multiple turns. Well, okay, so that's the crime side of it. What about the treasure side? Well, you have things like Goldspan that just are going to have all your treasures sacked for extra mana, or it's going to get them whenever it attacks. You have the package of Hedron Detonator, Ingenious Artillerist, and Reckless Fireweaver that are going to deal damage for each treasure that comes in. Stormcloud Artist can get us a treasure every time we cast or copy an instant or sorcery. It can get bigger for each treasure we have. Zorn makes that many +1 whenever we make a treasure token. You have things like Seize the Spoils, Big Score, and then Unexpected Windfall next page that are draw spells that also make a treasures. Hit the Motherlode's a card I truly love. Discovering 10, and then if you discover a card less than 10, which is pretty much the entire deck, you're going to get the extras as tokens. Reaver Cleaver will deal damage whenever the creature deals damage to a player. We create that many treasures, and then Rain of Riches can give the first spells we cast each turn with treasure cascade. So again, just these ways to take the treasure side of our deck and add extra value. But I think the thing I'm the most excited for is the dragons, because there's a lot of really fun dragons. Remember, Magda makes a dragon token. Old Magda can go get these dragons, but again, The dragons themselves, either half of them make treasures or they're just great in general, and we'll go through why. At Sushi, when it dies, we can either make 3 treasures or exile the top 2 and play them until the end of our next turn. Pretty great because it's a great body, and then if it dies, we probably just want we could want the treasures. Gainax is a pretty cool ability. Whenever it or another dragon ETBs, we make a treasure. Remember, that doesn't say non-token, meaning every time Magda sacrifices those treasures to make a dragon or something like that, we're going to get a treasure. Boneheart Dracosaur, at the beginning of our upkeep, exiles the top 2 cards of our library, and we can play them. And if we exile a land and make a dinosaur token, but we really care about it, if we exile a non-land card, we get a treasure, so we can potentially 1 treasure per turn that we can use. Scourge of Valkus and Terror of the Peaks really get into starting to talk about where the dragon side of this deck wants to be. Scourge of Valkus says whenever it or another dragon ETBs, deal X damage to any target where X is the number of dragons you control, and this is where we want to start using this kind of damage project, this small subset of cards to deal damage to our opponent. Same thing with Terror of the Peaks. Whenever other creature ETBs, it deals damage to that creature's power to any target. Remember, Magda's making 4/4s, so that's 4 damage. Uvar Hellkite can give us a 6/6 dragon whenever any dragon we control attacks. And then Dragon Tempest is the other card of these kind of 3 to 4 with Warstorm Surge, just dealing damage to our opponents. Warstorm equal to the power, so just like Terror of the Peaks. Tempest, just like Scourge, X to any target where X is the number of dragons. So again, taking advantage of all these dragons coming in and having them around. And the Wrathful Dragon can deal out some damage when damage is dealt to one of our dragons. I hope that kind of makes sense. You have the crimes, you have the treasures, you have the dragons to back it up. I really like this kind of package we're putting in together. But I said it before in this show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is my first shot at it, and these are 2, +1 cards that I really wanted to add, or I was really considering. The first is Flick a Coin. This is the one that I was the least into of the 3. Deal a damage to any target, create a treasure, draw. I like the idea of it, right? It's kind of seize the spoils, except you're not pitching the card, which I feel like would make it good as an instant speed. But I like the other 2 a little bit more because they give us very similar abilities but for less. Mishra's Bauble, look at the top card of target player's library, draw a card being next turn's upkeep. So this is a crime and an extra piece of draw. And then Implement a Combustion, 1 mana to put it down, 1 mana to sack it to do 1 damage to target player. Again, it's a crime, and we'll tick Magda off. So as you can see, you have these, and then when it gets put in the graveyard, draw a card. So again, 2 mana to draw a card and get a crime. So as you can see, there's kind of these are these crime cards that we really want to prioritize. I would see maybe 1 or 2 of these coming back in and taking maybe a dragon out or taking something else out to kind of really get the core amount of crimes in our deck where we really want it to be. It's just hard to tell that with a little bit of testing. And that's really, I think, where Millsy sits as a show is talking about how do we approach the deck before we start testing. But getting into our first play test, we have 3 lands, Goldspan, Stormkiln, Renegade Tactus, which can make a creature not block its turn, draw a card, and then Academy Manufacturer. So then every time Magda is making treasures, we're making a treasure, a clue, and a food. So we're going to try to get just Magda down on turn 2. Again, don't expect to do anything here until turn 3 when we draw. So now we have a choice. We can play the Academy Manufacturer, but there's really no way to commit a crime. I like the idea of trying to Renegade Tactics here to get a crime off, to get a treasure, to draw a card. If somebody has a card, which I imagine they do at this point on turn 3, I would just do this. That's going to make us a tap treasure. And then draw us a card, and there we go. Perfect. Fireweaver. Get Fireweaver down. So now we effectively played our turn 3 for that. I love it. Magda could get in here, but it doesn't really matter. Again, we're just trying to get up some value. Turn 4, we're 1 mana off of Goldspan and Gainax. My only problem with playing the Academy Manufacturer is I kind of have no way to commit a crime if I commit that much in. I kind of feel like it has to be keeping Chaos Warp up and just try to warp something on the board. Because I don't really see anything else. I guess we could Stormkiln since we know we have like Goldspan next turn. Maybe that's the route we go, get that set up. And then next turn 5, we could maybe just Goldspan. Goldspan could go ahead and attack, getting us into the treasure, and then maybe we dump the treasures like into a Canopy Manufacturer just to get that down. Damage would have gone off for Fireweaver. When the treasure came in, damage is also going to go off for Fireweaver when Manufacturer comes in, which is pretty great. Again, it's each opponent, so it doesn't target. But then here is the awkward spot where I think I've run out of crimes to come in. I'm not entirely sure what to do. The problem with the Chaos Warp is I can't pick my own thing, right? Because that doesn't make any sense. But the cool part here is if I Chaos Warp something random on my opponent's board, I'm making 2 treasures at different times. So I'm making 2 treasures, 2 clues, 2 foods, 6 damage from the Fireweaver. And then we move to attack, gold spend attacks, make a treasure, clue, and a food, 3 more damage. And I think that would be my point where I would, start moving forward, start sacking them for Magda, getting more dragons, and, start threatening things in the air. Right, and that would be probably where I would start the party forward. All right, here, 2 mana, so you got enough for Magda. We got the Curse Mirror at 3, so we've got enough if we can get there. Turn 1, we get the Mountain down. Turn 2, we get Magda down so we can get the party going. Janus Plunderer says, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a treasure token. When you do, target opponent creates a tap treasure token. And whenever it attacks, it does damage equal to defending player to the number of artifacts they control. Which is interesting. Well, turn 3, awkwardly, we miss the land, which kind of stings, but I just get the Liquid Metal Torque down here. And then on somebody else's turn, I would just tap something, tap it to make something a artifact to get the treasure. Come back to my turn. You can miss the land again. Okay. Torque can tap for mana, but in order to do that, we lose out on getting it for its other ability. So I think the coding... Coding, and then maybe Sticky Fingers on Magda, try to hit at somebody since it has Menace. I feel like on turn 3, we're probably going to be able to get in somewhere for that. And then on our opponent's turns, we use the 2... we use the 2 things, right, to commit crimes and get treasures. Cool, now we're kind of building this board of treasures that we can use to make dragons if we want to. Here... I would probably just get rid of the 3 of these here to make a Zorn so that we're, really getting them quicker. And we have what? 3 mana left? I like the idea of Curse Mirror copying the Zorn. That would get us, well, that wouldn't be great because it only goes till end of turn, right? So Zorn would just, if we did a crime on our team, it would still only be, it wouldn't be 3, it wouldn't be like 2 doubled like it would be otherwise. I think I would just put the Plunderer down. Again, on my opponent's turns, use both the coatings. This time it's 4 instead of 2 because of the Zorn out. So now we're making lots of treasures. Maybe we'll say last turn we tried to get in somewhere with Magda, so now we got a bunch of these saved up. Plunder at the start of our turn makes another one, tells someone to make one as well. Here, we could... I think here is where I would get this down as a copy of Zorn, probably till end of turn. And then what? Play the hearse, tap the hearse, make a couple treasures, maybe sack a couple treasures for dragons. And again, I think now we're just finding a way to capitalize. We have something like Dragon Spark Reactor, which can could get there eventually. But again, I think we're just trying to use the big score to draw, get towards it, get enough treasures. We could always make just a bunch of dragons with haste if need be. I don't mind that game plan. But let me know, what do you think of Magda? Down in the comment section below. The question I think at the end of the day is going to become: is it better than the old Magda? That's probably up for debate. I like the new one better. Because I think the crimes are easier to commit every turn, whereas Magda is going to really require you doing it on your turn. But again, I've seen Brazen Outlaw run so well on its own that I don't think it's impossible either. So I'd love to know what you think of Magda down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next time.